this is not rocket science, guys, but I thought that I was going to do it anyway, so I thought just have some company while I'm doing it. All right, well, what I'm doing is, I'm pretty sure that you guys do it all the time, but today was, ooh, yay, Alexis, we got people coming in. Today was the first half of the live online class that I have this weekend. So if you can recall, last week was a total freaking tragedy. Hey Myrna. So Myrna is one of my students. So Myrna, I'm gonna post this also in our group, but this is not part of the secrets of our class, but this is just doing a second coat on the cake, right? So in the live class today and tomorrow and the following weekend, we zoomed it because I was so freaking scared that something's gonna happen again on Facebook and I'll be put in jail again. So it was just funny. I should have taken a picture of me on a computer, on 2 phones, and doing Facebook Live and Zoom. It was just crazy this morning. Anyway, gosh. Anyway, we saved the video. So if you're a student in any of my classes, we saved the video, and you'll be able to go to the groups and sift through all the previous videos and photos and all that stuff, folders and all that stuff. So, all right. Normally, I would say normally, the fastest and most foolproof way to do a straight edged ganache cake is to build it upside down, and I would say that's the foolproof way of doing it. Now what if you did it and then you notice that after your first coat things aren't so perfect, right? So Alexis, a couple of groups, when I do my live classes, they have certain groups, right? So my students who get the classes, who pay for the classes, they're in separate private groups, all right? So when I was in Facebook jail, all of the groups that I was in, I think Facebook kind of hid my comments. So today, because I'm out of Facebook jail, all of my comments and posts was back to normal. So, hey Tristan. All right, so going back, what if you did your first coat and you're not super happy about it? Don't worry, because the first coat is always there to coat, crumb coat, you know, coat your cake, seal the crumbs in, and then there's always second coat, which is the redeeming coat. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is do it upside down to save myself. Okay, I got a couple of tools I use. Parchment paper. All right, if you have doesn't have to be this, it could be cake board, acrylic board. I just have spares. You don't have to have them, but I just have spares of acrylic disc. So the objective is to have a flat surface where you can put your parchment. So this is a round, right? Some people use even bigger one. Perfect. If you have them, great. And then you build your cake upside down. Now my cake is pretty cold, right? So I'm confident that I can flip it. Not a problem. Whoops. Hey Ate Jo. What am I making? I'm just making a regular tier. I'm just making conversation. Looking for cake pals to talk to while I just do a second coat on my cake. Okay, nothing much. Nothing much. So if you were, and I have this tutorial, I've done this before, a lot of people have done this before, but if you were building your cake upside down, this is how you start. So you put your ganache in, stack your cake board. So let's pretend, ta-da, that it's there. Okay, let's pretend that it's there. Ta-da! And then you scraped it, right? So now, because this is second coat, this is what's going to double check my sides and my edges. The biggest mistake I make, or noobs would make, is that when you scrape your cake, if it was right side up, another perfect example, and then you either angle it a little on the outside or on the inside, it's possible that your cake will start to have an angle and warp, right? So this way, you're kind of double checking yourself, and you're making sure that your cake board, on which is on the top, so it's upside down, that's gonna be your guide. So it's not going to be, whoop, there's no argument there, right? And don't be worried that, am I putting on too much? I'm gonna scrape all that. This is just making it fast and easy. Okay. And remember, my cake is from the fridge too, so I need to work fast. I'm not gonna dilly-dally and be gentle about it. I'm just gonna make sure that I cover all spaces. All right, that should be done. All right, hold your cake, and then make sure that your scraper. So remember, we have a plastic disc under this, right? If you can see, okay, there's a plastic disc under there. See you guys. So that's what I like about this method, because there's really no room for misinterpretation. Because once your bench scraper hits that board and hits the edge of the cake board, that's it. That's all you need to worry about. So I'm going to take another look and see if there's any tiny holes or gaps that I missed. So there's one. There's another. And another. That should be it. Right there. I'm just going around one last time. That should be it. Or acetate scraper for the very end. Do I do the same in buttercream? I don't usually use buttercream as an outside cover, but method-wise, procedure-wise, technique-wise, it will work with any. So it will work with buttercream as well. Oh, I love that, because it's starting to set. And the nice thing about ganache is that once it starts to set, the better it gets. If you keep scraping and it gets worse, that's always a clue that there's something wrong. Always. Either your ganache is too soft, your ganache has already gone beyond, it has dried, you're too late. But the way that ganache behaves is always a sign for you. Right, so it's like this, right? So while I do the small one, I'm going to stick this in the fridge, and in a couple minutes it should be done. So we're going to do the smaller one. Have I ever put buttercream over ganache? Actually, I've done the opposite. I've crumb coated in buttercream, and then while chilled, I put ganache on top of it. It's not always perfect because it depends on what buttercream you use too. So I usually use Swiss meringue buttercream because it tastes the best. For me, it tastes better than American buttercream. So if it's Swiss meringue buttercream, it's softer, right? So if you crumb coat with Swiss meringue, that's with me today. If you crumb coat with Swiss meringue, holy crap, just my brain started shorting out. If you crumb coat with Swiss meringue, and then while you're doing it, for some reason, your room temperature softens a little bit, softens your buttercream a little bit, it becomes a little warm. While you're doing your ganache, your buttercream will join it, which we don't want, right? So as always, when doing that, I work fast. Okay, so what am I doing? Parchment, plastic disc, cake board, whatever, as long as it's big enough for the purpose that we need it for. You just don't want it to move a lot. Okay, and the funny thing is that parchment will do its job and not stick. So we're just trying to keep it there. I'm sure a lot of pros there are gonna be like, what the heck you doing, girl? This is the lazy girl hack. If it works, it works. And then one more tip, and I always say this in my classes, in my free videos and everything, your ganache, the consistency of your ganache is make or break. Okay, so even if your cake has literally gone to hell and back, your ganache will be able to save it, fix it, make it look like nothing happened. All right, but the consistency of your ganache is key. When we say peanut butter consistency, literally peanut butter consistency. If it's not that, stop. Either wait for your ganache to set a little better. If it's soupy, you can stick it in the fridge. If it's too cold and it starts to set, you can microwave for a few seconds, but it's got to be peanut butter consistency, and it should hold. Okay, that would fill all the cracks. Okay, every imperfection. So let's do this like the opposite way. I'm just gonna smother the top and overfill the top, and I'm just gonna dunk it because it's tiny. I just don't want to put any air bubbles there. This is me being so lazy. Do I cover all my cakes with fondant or finish my cake in ganache and then decorate? I usually do fondant. I usually do fondant just because I usually work with fondant. Like I don't have a lot of requests for bare ganache. I mean, definitely you can just do a cake with a ganache, plain ganache finish. If you guys follow Avalon Cakes, Avalon has a great tutorial on how to color ganache and how to do amazing ganache finishes on the outside with different colored ganache. So it will look like it's fondant, but it's actually ganache. So try to check out Avalon. And then the other question is, oh wait a second, do I cover all my oh wait, what's the other one? Can I cover my cakes with white chocolate ganache? Yeah. I just have to be really honest with you guys. I personally am white ganache dislikes me. definitely am doing, I haven't wooed it yet. I haven't really gotten to know it quite well enough because I don't work with it a lot, but I should. Besides, it's white chocolate ganache that you can color. I mean, how can you color this apart from making it darker, right? And then what's it? I know. Have I ever experienced my ganache cake cracking while traveling? I'm trying to remember if I ever did. I don't think I ever experienced that before. So remember when you're scraping, whatever it is, whether it's buttercream or ganache, every time you do, clean it. Another question, how big is the board underneath than my cake? At least about, there's 2 inches or more would be better, because if your cake was 4 and then your guide at the bottom is like 6 inches or 5, then the base of your bench scraper has nothing to stand on. So right now there's, see my finger? That's where the board is. So at least, you see that? So it's sitting on something, quote unquote, more stable than just an inch. Okay? Because that's where me, I would say not we, because I would generalize, right? I would say me. If it was smaller, that's a potential mistake maker for me. So here I can see, wait, I have to hold it. I can see like my initial, I'm scraping my first layer, I can see in one part. It means that my first coat was a little bit too much. My first coat was too excited. All right. But you know what, guys, before I worked with ganache, I only worked with Swiss meringue. I tried American buttercream in the beginning because that's what they told you to do. Like when you research and you're a newbie and you search for buttercream recipe and American buttercream is going to pop up, I could not love it because it was so sweet. I could not love the overpowering powdered sugar taste. It's just me, you know. Some people love it, I don't. So I learned how to make Swiss meringue buttercream, but Swiss meringue wasn't very stable. And I know there will be buttercream experts out there that will say, oh, there's a way to make it stable. I know, and it's so time consuming. And besides, I still would cover it with ganache. So when I started working with ganache, that's when I discovered that it's worth the try, because once you get, it's not that you're going to perfect the method. Some people will, great, but like for example me, when I'm doing it, I would think about the possible ways that things can go wrong, right? And usually sometimes things will go wrong, but when you have the faith and the confidence that ganache will fix anything, you're good. To me, I think that's where I just rest my faith, is that ganache will fix it. What if you were so lazy and you couldn't find your leveler? What if you don't have a leveler and you just use your knife, and then once you stack your cake was a little bit, you know, leaning on the right, ganache will still fix that. So I love it. Like little things like that, ganache will be able to fix. So the usual ratio that I use, okay, Marissa's asking, do I whip my ganache usually? No. but you can, because some people use whipped ganache as a frosting. It will just appear a little like lighter brown because of the air that's incorporated in it. Okay, so I'm gonna put this in the fridge really quickly. And because I talk a lot, I'm pretty sure this is ready. All right, Cynthia is asking, what do you do when it's so sticky and it's so humid? So I remember, because here humidity is hardly my problem, but when I had classes in humid countries, like my home country, the Philippines, very humid, and most classes that we do there use compound chocolate nut couverture, which means we also tweak the ratio of the chocolate to the cream. So depending on the brand, feel free, Cynthia, to experiment. So normally for semi-sweet, we go by the 2:1 ratio, right? 2:1 general rule. But I found out that if you want your cake to set faster, or if you're in more challenging climates, like here it's just hotter period, I've gotten used to upping the amount of chocolate, which is 2.5:1 ratio. Now that's my go-to, that's my base, 2.5:1. You can still go 3:1. So depending on the chocolate that you use. Why am I ganaching upside down? Because the cake board becomes my guide. So instead of using acrylics, which using acrylics before just gave me a panic attack because I was not successful. All right, so I could still see some pockets of air. So while it's cold, I'm just gonna put a little blob, and then another blob. Oh gosh, Michelle's asking, what do you do when you're intolerant to milk? God, Michelle, I don't know the answer to that. I'm gonna ask somebody. That's one thing, Michelle, I've told myself I'm gonna do, like find healthier alternatives, or for those with diet restrictions or gluten-free alternatives, and I've never gotten to doing it. So this is also a lifesaver. You don't have to buy it, like don't wait if you wanted to try it. So what I'm using is a flexible smoother, but it really came from a fabric store. So it's called a flexible, let me see, heavy duty template plastic, which is found in Joann's. Okay, so if you go to Joann's, it's as big as a placemat, and so every time you use it, it's clean. Okay, but this is the reason why, see, it's super easy to use, super cheap, super cheap, and I think if you buy one, it's like $6. If you use your discount, how much is that? Not even $5, not even $4, and then you can make 16 pieces out of it. So, okay, so you can use it to scrape, you can use it to smooth. Okay, so this is one. Excuse me. So this is the other. So again, the reason why it's upside down, because the top becomes your guide when you scrape. That's it. Okay, that's all. To me, when I'm becoming lazy, sometimes I make mistakes, and that's one way to not make a mistake, because and you know, your parchment, wipe it, use it again. Okay, so for this one, there's just, that's all. So the whoever it is, no, I put it in just in the fridge. See, so that much clearance is fine. Totally okay. You can also freeze it. I mean, it's not for that short a time. If you're in a hurry, freeze it. No, not a big deal. Because all you want to do is just have your chocolate, your ganache set. Okay. So, almost done. I hate small cakes. Am I the only one? Like, the smaller they are, the more fussy they are. Yes, Atasha, yeah. It'll work for BC because it's not the material, it's the technique that's going to help you. So whatever it is, it should work. And I've done it, and I've done it with Swiss meringue. I've done it with American buttercream. It will work. Okay, so imagine these two cakes. If you saw my post earlier today, we did structure building 101 crash course, mind blown sessions this morning for the balancing cakes class, and then tomorrow we're gonna assemble everything and cover in fondant. So yeah, so they're gonna be pretty heavy, and the cake that we're building is about 30 inches tall, which I think is exciting. I was telling my class today that couple years ago, I would say 5 years ago, we did a class in Louisiana in Cake Fest and had amazing group of students, and when we finished it, everybody went out of the class just holding their cake from these two. So from the top they're holding it, and then the whole structure was dangling from it, and I thought that was really amazing. Kind of shocked the people. Oh my god, I cannot imagine mini wedding cakes. Right, so there you go. And then if you still have like little imperfections that you're not so happy about, if you're like that, I will pray for you. If you're like that, yeah, I'll pray for you, because there are some things that you can let go of. Like if it's not super perfect and you're going to cover it with fondant, no one's gonna see it, and it will be fine. Okay, but if you're super bothered, the last thing that you can do to kind of rub it off is use shortening. So you have gloves, obviously, and a little bit of shortening, and the warmth of your hands will be able to take away all those little imperfections. Alexis, if you look at my post earlier, if you go to my website, wavybeyondcakes.com, you can still join us for the coming week, or look at what we did in the past 6 classes. So this weekend is the 7th online class, and super excited. Janet, okay, so this is important, guys. She's asking, will buttercream be the same price as ganache? No. So when you do your costing, look at how much butter and powdered sugar is, or eggs and sugar and butter for your buttercream. Compare it to the price of cream and chocolate, because the chocolate, depending on what brand you're using, even if you're using store brand, it's more expensive. And then cream is also expensive. So this is also one thing I always remind my students, is that if you, that's why I like this technique, because it limits you. When you're scraping, you're using your cake board as a final, a final stop sign, I guess. So when you're doing this, you're not going another 1/4 inch away from your board. What does that mean? Because you can perfect the sharp edge, but you are a 1/4 or 1/2 inch too thick. What does that mean for you? It's your profit, right? So on its own, buttercream versus ganache, it's already more expensive. And then if you don't know how to do it sparingly, then more expensive, right? Than it should be. All right, so I think, how tall are these? About 3 inches. Yeah, these are smaller. 3 inches of cake. Yay! So thank you. They're heavy. So tomorrow they're going to be on top of each other, 24 inches high, and they will top the cake off. So again, thank you guys for being here. And for those who are interested in our class next week will be a little more funky because we're going to tilt the tiers. It will be a little crazier. And then for past classes, please check out my website and go to shop and you'll see all that. All right. Alexis, yes, 3 inches. It's a little smaller. There's a reason why, but you will see when I'm done with the cake tomorrow, you will see why. All right. Thank you guys for being with me on a random Saturday night. I enjoyed your company. Oh, I'm seeing a lot of my students over here, but I appreciate you guys being there. And hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. After our class, I'll show you the finished product. Have a good night, guys.